Doug Morris, the president of CSI, is going to be going over iMerge today. If you guys do have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the question area and we will address them at the end. And this webinar is also being recorded and we will put it up on our website so you can review or share with your staff afterwards. Other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug.
Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. So we're going to get going because your time's valuable. So first off, a big thanks. We've got 280 people using iMerge. It is our second most popular product behind iEmail. We started with version 1 and we're all the way into the 4 right now. And all of the enhancements we've made, not all, but a good portion of them were created because of your suggestions. So thank you. Thank you so much for continuing those great suggestions and keeping us on our toes. So we're going to go over the history of iMerge, kind of the why we created it, stuff that makes your life a little bit easier, which includes some fun little things, merging web accounts, our duplicate finder. We're going to solicit some ideas for our next release, tell you how to get the latest version, how to install the latest version, how to get help if you do need it, and some Q&A near the end. So before I get into the why here, I want to talk real quick why we're doing this webinar. We're doing these webinars and they repeat every couple months because we found that those 280 clients that have purchased iMerge, many of you haven't upgraded, many of you don't know about all the features we've added to iMerge. And this came about when I was at a client and they were telling me about some of their duplicate challenges. And I said, well, you have iMerge, why don't you solve those challenges? And they said, well, we didn't know iMerge did that. And they were on an old version of iMerge. They had been paying their software update fees, so they're fully entitled to the latest release. They just hadn't put it on because they didn't realize what we had added. So this is really designed for our customers that already have iMerge. I will say that we invited every customer to this webinar, but ultimately it's designed around not a sales aspect, but a look at this stuff that you can do. So we created iMerge because customers needed a quick way to merge duplicate records in iMIS. The existing product out at the time asked you a lot of questions, and what I saw was that it took, I'm going to say probably about 10 minutes to do a merge, and our customers said, you know, we need to do this merge now. I know these dupes. I can handle everything except for the activities and the trans and all that other stuff, and if you could just give me that, I will be happy. So that's sort of what we did. We said, you know, let's make a product that works quickly and repeatably. And so what is it that most people can't merge? They can't merge activities, subscriptions, they can't merge financials behind the scenes, certifications, what else? Orders, and even events. All of those are things that you cannot merge as an end user. It's not possible to merge that stuff. So we needed a way to make that all, you know, workable from an end user perspective, okay? So what did we do? We created a product that did what they couldn't do. We kept it as simple as possible. I have a lot of clients that are always saying, well, it'd be great if you did this. And the problem with any feature we add is it makes it harder to use. It makes it, you know, we want our products to work so you don't need a manual. That's the key. And so just by adding one little checkbox doubles the testing time and doubles the complexity. So we're very cautious about adding anything to it. So we created iMerge, right? An end user tool for merging duplicates with enough power for the geeks, designed by real end users, people that actually use the product, and those people, you know, sometimes they are a little geeky themselves. So let's talk a little bit about what's new. We added the ability to merge multi-instance tables without a stored procedure back in November of 2012. We added the ability to call stored procedures, this is the geeky stuff, at 3 different intervals in March of 2013. This was very powerful. We added the ability to merge and transfer user credentials in June of 2013. I'm going to touch on a couple different things here at the end of this, and they deal with the contact merge that's built into 20. We'll talk about that in 1 minute. We enhanced our error reporting, so if you do get an error with iMerge, CSI gets that error message as well, and that's important because we need to know the challenges you're running into, and when you call for help, we want to be able to help you. We added the ability to suppress error messages during batch merge. You could run a batch of IDs. Let's say you had 10,000 records to merge. You'd set it, you'd go home for the night, and you'd come in the next morning and only 3 records had merged before it came across 2 records that were registered for the same event. So you wasted your whole night. So now you can suppress those error messages, run your 10,000 records, and in the morning it's going to tell you the 120 records that couldn't be merged due to duplicate subscriptions or duplicate events or other kind of issues. So you can suppress those, let it do all its other work. Then we got really funky and we added our duplicate finder. And as I said, this was created by Greg Hartigan at our office. He's a real end user, or he was before we hired him. And he's been through the challenges that you've been through finding dupes. RISE survey questions. If you're using RISE events module, the survey questions are hidden in other tables. We've added the ability to merge those. This was cool, and this was very important for our folks in other countries where you are awake and we're not. In the past, if you changed your number of users in iMIS, it broke iMerge. You needed a new license key from us. You're awake, we're asleep. By morning, we're able to get you a new license key that you can't use because now you're asleep and we're awake. And if something went wrong, the process repeated. So we've added the ability to self-license on our products. And so that's huge. As long as we have your iMIS serial number, the product's going to automatically license. There's some tricks with gift reporting in iMIS 20, and we had to enhance iMerge to support that. The trigger, the way it was implemented by ASI, will double up on gifts in the gift report table, and so we've had to adjust for that. So if you're using fundraising, if you are a fundraising user of iMIS and you use iMerge, then you better have the latest release. That's very important. And then if you're using AutoPay, which has been coming out now, we've added support for that as well. I want to go back here real quick, and let's talk a couple different things about the differences between iMerge and contact merge. First off, multi-instance tables will always merge with contact merge. You don't have a choice. And those are tables where you have multiple records, a user-defined table where you have multiple data per ID. And just because we have the time here, let's go ahead and show what one of those looks like. Because sometimes what happens is I'm talking here and I'm telling you all these great things, and you're like, well, what's a multi-instance table, Doug? That was a great webinar, but I'm still not sure what a multi-instance table is. So let's just go ahead and look at a given record here in iMIS. And I have this also in the webinar, but I just want to show you this right now. If we are looking at this guy, Doug Morris, out here, and we look at his specialties, you can see this is a multi-instance where I can have multiple specialties, as opposed to a single instance where it's just all of this filled out for one. So like an Excel spreadsheet. In the contact merge, it's going to merge those no matter what. In iMerge, you have the choice to select which tables are going to happen or are going to be merged. We can call stored procedures. That's the geeky part. We can call it before the merge, after the merge, and we'll talk about what all those means. You can't do that. Our transfer of user credentials is very different. ASI is going to take all of the rights that your old record had and apply them to the record you're keeping. We don't think that's a good idea. What we do is we keep the most recently used user credential, and I'll show you how that works in a minute too. There is no error reporting with contact merge. If it fails, you're going to have to figure it out. And there's no way to suppress error messages during a batch merge. Our duplicate finder is very powerful, and I'm going to show you some of the features it has. And our demographic fields are controlled by you as well, whereas in RISE, contact merge, they're always going to merge. So, multi-instance tables, those are under Options, Edit Custom Merge Fields in iMerge. When you go there, you choose that. and you actually go to Edit Custom Merge Fields. This part was designed for merging data outside of iMIS. This is another thing that Contact Merge can't do. iMerge is going to be able to handle if you've got a third-party website and they're storing data in other tables, you can tell iMerge about it, and it's going to automatically update those tables, even though they're not iMIS tables. But you can also use it for multi-instance tables. And so you get a little warning that says, hey, when you go to choose this, it's only for non-iMIS tables with the exception of multi-instance user-defined. Check out our user guide. And what's a multi-instance? You saw the specialties that I just showed you. So this would be how I would merge my specialties table. I'd choose my database, I'd choose the table, and I'd choose ID. Now, any record in this specialties table is going to be copied to the record I'm keeping. So the record I'm getting rid of will lose all of its data in this table. Okay, remember, you cannot use those custom merge fields for regular iMIS tables, including demographics. You want to use our stored procedure option there. So I showed you the demographic one. You cannot merge those. Once again, iMerge was designed for you guys so you could control what you wanted to merge. So this is either going to be via a stored procedure or it's going to be done manually. You have full control over it. Let's talk about stored procedures. You can call a stored procedure, and that's a geeky term for some SQL code, if you will, before the pre-merge checks. You would use that if you were to have a whole bunch of records that, let's say, were all registered for the same event. And rather than go in and unregister and cancel them, you could write a stored procedure that did your dirty work. So this means that before iMerge goes and looks at the records to make sure they can be merged, we're going to call this before pre-merge checks, and we can do some cleanup now ahead of time. This kind of work or these kind of procedures are outside the scope of our service agreement, but we have plenty of clients that take advantage of these great features. The next time you can call a stored procedure is at the beginning of the merge. I might want to call a stored procedure at the beginning of the merge to fail a merge. Let's say we have a record that never, ever, ever should be merged. It shouldn't be merged to or from. You can create a stored procedure that says, if someone's trying to merge one of these IDs, fail the merge, and it'll report back and say, you can't merge this. That is a system record, not allowed. So you can actually tell iMerge there are records you don't want merged. Finally, at the end of the merge, that means after the merge is finished. So we need some additional cleanup. Maybe I want to email customer service. Maybe I want to merge some demographics. Or that's where we call our merge web accounts stored procedure as well. To get to it, you go down here to options, call stored procedure, and then you go and you type in what you want. We give you the CSI SP merge web account. You simply choose it at the end. You tell it the duplicate ID and the merge to ID. It's very straightforward. And then you're going to get a message. It's blue now, I believe, and it's saying calling stored procedure at the end of the merge. We give you a whole bunch of stored procedures in the manual. Here, the one that's in the manual, here's one. And this is stuff you just can't do with Contact Merge. The samples we give you is to keep the oldest join date while keeping the most recent paid through and maybe moving a demographic window if it's blank. So you can do all sorts of fun stuff with these stored procedures. And in the Contact Merge, and I want to be real clear, I'm not trying to knock Contact Merge. It's a great product. It's included with 20. We're excited about that. People don't have to buy iMerge now. And if you do have iMerge, you can do a lot more. So we see people using iMerge because they need it to do more. They need to do things that Contact Merge doesn't do. And so another example might be, in this case, something you can't do with Contact Merge, to keep the oldest join date. Contact Merge will only move the join date if it doesn't exist on the record you're keeping, whereas you can tell Merge, move it if it's older on the record I'm getting rid of. User credentials, I talked about that as well. That is very, very, very powerful. And what we designed our user credential merge to do is we said, hey, we're going to go out there and say customers want to keep the most recently used user credential. Let me give you an example here. So Zach's been a member for years, but he keeps forgetting his user credentials, and he's always creating a new record online and registering for a meeting. I'm going to keep his old record, the record that has all of the events that he's ever gone to. I'm keeping that. But I want to move the user credentials that he probably remembers. He probably remembers the credentials he just created. Maybe that's Z Brandt and it's CSI123. He's going to remember that. So I'm going to keep those credentials if he used them more recently. So even though I'm getting rid of his duplicate record, I'm keeping the user credentials that he created for that record. So very powerful there. What's it look like? Here's his existing record in iMIS that I'm going to keep, right? It's Z Brandt, and he hasn't logged in since, we'll call this October 9th, 2013. And then here is the record he just created. His login is Zach, okay? And he created a new password. We don't know what that is. We don't care. And we can see that on June 5th, 2014, he created that record. So what we're going to do is when we run iMerge, it's going to go and it's going to keep the Zach information. Even though I kept record 200, it moved Zach and it shows his last login, and it moved his password as well. We don't know what that password is, but we know what it is hashed. And so it's gone and moved this user information from 2001 and overwritten what's in 2000. This is optional. You don't have to turn it on, but if you do turn it on, you're always going to keep the most recently used user credential. As Zach said, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. We'll get to those at the very end. So once again, to turn this on, you're going to go out there and you're going to go to Options, Call Stored Procedure. You're going to choose at the end of the Merge radio button. You're going to select our CSI SP Merge web account as a stored procedure, set your duplicate ID, set your merge to ID, and click Save. We've got a customer in NIAG AP, Jesse. Jesse posted on the NIAG listserv recently and said, is there a way to move user credentials? And I reached out to Jesse privately and I said, you happen to own iMerge, go ahead and use this stored procedure. So even though you own iMerge, because you own iMerge, you have this stored procedure, and I'm more than fine with you using this stored procedure outside of iMerge to do cleanup outside of that. So another great thing for iMerge, if you have it, you can use the stored procedures that are built into it. Error reporting. This is designed so that if you submit us an error, especially you guys out there in Asia Pacific, if you submit an error to us and you email us in the middle of the night and say, iMerge isn't working, it crashed on me, we're actually going to get that error in our system, and we're going to be able to tie to it in the morning. So when we get in the morning, if you didn't give us a screenshot or all the information we normally ask for, we're actually going to get what caused the error. We're going to get the SQL code that caused it. So that's pretty powerful. If you're really worried about sending us information, you can turn it off. I don't recommend that. But by the way, if you do have it on, here's what we get. We get the product name that you're using, iMerge. We get the version of iMerge you're using, the iMIS version you're on, your database version, your operating system version, the user you're logging in as, the company you're with, the actual error message, how you are connecting to your database. There is no password set, the SQL statement that caused the error, and the internal trace of the error and what time it happened at. So that's very powerful. If you can leave that on, that'd be great. As I said, the reason we did this is because we'd have to ask for your database to troubleshoot those tricky errors. That just takes longer. We want to make our support fast and efficient. So we get to see the exact cause of the error, you get quicker support, and we get to keep your software update fees lower because we're not wasting time going and asking for your database or asking you to run a trace and all those fun things. So it's a win-win. Batch merging, we've always had the ability to do batches of records, okay? All you got to do is give it a whole file of your good IDs and your bad IDs, actually your bad IDs, your good IDs. You put them in, you say load batch merge, and iMerge will go together. Merge them all together. As I said, if you're using an old version of iMerge, it stops. And boy, did we have angry people saying, I ran this last night, I've saved up my 5,000 dupes, and only 3 got done. So I ran it again tonight, and 10 got done. So now iMerge is going to continue. It's going to report back any errors found the 10 records it couldn't merge, and it's going to tell you about the 1,000 records it did merge. Our duplicate finder, we added to iMerge in 2014. We did not charge anybody for this. We did raise our software update fee by a whopping $100 USD. And you got to get to this now by going to Tools, Duplicate Finder. So we have customers that don't know about this, and that's, you know, that's the whole reason that we're doing these webinars. So if I fire up iMerge and log in, you'll see it's up here, Tools, Duplicate Finder. We'll talk about that in a minute. Duplicate Finder is really, really cool because it can do a whole bunch of things. You can have different search profiles. You can have a find list maximum. So I can't deal with more than 200 dupes. So don't find any more than 200 because I'll go crazy. You can control what fields are returned when you run it. So maybe I want first name, last name, company, and I want country. I can do that. You can control what it checks on. So maybe you've decided that your dupes are the first 3 letters of the first name, the first 5 letters of the last name, the country, and the first 4 characters of the address. You can make your own formula. You can control whether foreign characters are supported, and you can even exclude records. So maybe I don't want records marked for deletion. They've already been taken care of. Then we thought, well, some people are going to come up with some really cool search ideas. So let's allow the ability to export and import search. So I've seen it on the NIAG listserv a couple times. Someone saying, can you share with me the search you're using? So we're all for that. Share with the search you're using. In fact, if you happen to reach out to us and said, could you give me some ideas on different searches, we could definitely share those with the community as well. What else can Duplicate Finder do? It can support known duplicates. So when I come across records that I know are duplicates, I can say that I know are not duplicates. So there's 2 Doug Morrises. They both live in Wheaton, Illinois in the United States, but they happen to be 2 very different records. I can tell iMerge, don't ever bring those up again. I know they exist. And it's a true story. I almost moved on to the same street as another Doug Morris, and that I can only imagine how terrible that would have been. What else can we do? We can merge on the fly. So as you find duplicates, I can say merge these guys right now. Boom, boom, boom. Or I decided to lock myself in the office. I'm going to identify every dupe and merge them all. But I want to do them in batches. I'm going to identify and keep marking them to be merged later. So you find a duplicate, add to the list. I don't want to wait the 10 seconds it takes to do a merge. I'm going to add them, and at the very end, I'm going to merge them all at once. So we can do those as well. This is the best thing in the world, okay? And this is done by Greg Hartigan, and he created this, and that's priority grouping. That's the ability to break records into groups based on when they were added to iMIS. So you specify the number of days that you want for each group, okay? And then what's going to happen is it's going to break them into priorities. And so that allows you to find duplicates. Priority 1 are duplicates that have occurred. Both records were created within a certain number of days. Priority 2 is records that were created recently within 100 days that match a record that's much older. And priority 3 are records that are really old. And we had a client not too long ago tell us, there's so many dupes. I can't use iMerge because there's too many dupes. I don't know where to start. And I went to the consultant that was working with that client, and I said, check out the manual, because the manual talks about this. All right, it talks about the duplicate finder, and I thought this was very, very powerful. I'm going to show you something right now. I hope I'm going to find it here. Basically, it talks about the first time you use the duplicate finder, and I believe it's in here somewhere. Of course, I would have had it in here somewhere. And it basically says the first time you use it, okay, it can be a little overwhelming, all right? And so it gives you some ideas. Here we go. When you first start using, I guess we got a little spelling error there. We'll have to fix that, Zach. When you first start using duplicate finder, the results list may contain thousands of records. Knowing where to start may be overwhelming. Here are some tips. So we actually give you some tips. if you're going to use this for the first time, if you didn't even know about this feature, here are some tips that you can do to go through. They're in the manual, and it basically says, here's what you can do. It'll adjust your search time. It'll make sure that it's not overwhelming. Very powerful. So I was able to send this part of the manual to that customer and say, hey, I know it's overwhelming, but go check this out. We have some ways that are designed to help you break down that list. So basically, it can rock your world. We really are excited about this. There's so much stuff you can do. We talked about the profiles. Here's where I can have different profiles. What's the maximum number of dupes I want to find? What are the fields I want to show? What's the actual formula I'm using for finding the dupes? Whether I want to look at foreign characters. And then my duplicate record formula, this says don't bring in records that are marked for deletion. The merging on the fly, as I found 2 dupes, here they are, Brian Hickey. I can hit merge and it's going to immediately merge. Notice this swap button, that is live. If I wanted 240 to be my merge to ID and 239, I just hit the swap ID and it will instantly take care of that. There's adding to a batch merge. There are 2 types of batch merge. One, you're going to give it a list of IDs, a file if you will. And the other is the batch that you create while you're in the duplicate finder. So the original concept was people were using Crystal or they were using SSRS to create all of their dupes and then feeding them into iMerge. And you can still do that. Or you can do it manually by just adding to a batch here as well. Here's marking something a known duplicate. And if I did want to merge Brian, I could say, I know these 2 guys. They are 2 different guys. Add this to known dupes. Don't bring this up anymore. I don't want to see it. Notice the export button down there. I can even export those results. Maybe this is so overwhelming, I'm just going to let someone else deal with it. So I'm going to export that and say, you figure it out. So you can do that as well. So catch your breath. And I'm going to ask you some input. We're looking at the next version of iMerge. And what we're thinking about doing is allowing you to select which of your user-defined tables and name fields should be merged. It's going to still be the same thing, very simple. We're going to keep it simple, and that is we're not going to stop and ask you what you want to do. We're going to let you choose for each field what happens during a merge. So for instance, on a date field, maybe you always want to keep the oldest, or maybe you always want to keep the newest, or maybe you want to move it if it's blank. So for instance, I would keep the oldest if it was a join date. I'd keep the newest if it was a paid through. And then maybe I want to move it if it's blank on the record I'm keeping, but filled in on the record I'm getting rid of. Text and numeric fields, same sort of thing. You could say move if blank on destination only. And you're going to set it up and it's going to apply to everyone. So these rules that you will set up are just like our stored procedures. Once they're put in place, that's the way they're going to work, and they're going to work for everyone that way. So give some thought to that, and I'll show you how you can tell me your thoughts on that. So first off, make sure you're running the latest version, right? So you saw these great things. Hopefully you learned something new, but you're going to go into iMerge and you notice you're not on the latest release. First off, if you don't see that pretty login screen like this, you're definitely not on the latest release. This is our whole new login screen. And Zach's got us at 4.1.41. You can see it on the login screen, and you can see it on Help About as well. If you want to get the latest release, go to our website and click on Login in the upper right corner. We are redoing our website. I think it's coming out any day now. I believe Login will still stay up there. Enter the credentials we gave you when you first purchased iMerge. So you've got to log onto our website, and you'll see those. If you've lost those credentials for some reason, go ahead and just email sales@csiinc.com. And as soon as we wake up, we'll give you the credentials that you've lost. When you log in, you're going to go down to our current product releases, and you're going to see everything that you are currently licensed for and that you are current on your software update fee. So those are all the products you're free to download. Right here, you're going to see there's iMerge, and there's the latest release. And you can choose download, and notice we've also added documentation. Feel free to download the documentation first. The documentation does come with the product, so when you go to install it, it's automatically going to be there. However, maybe you see that we came out with 4.1.44, and you're not sure it's worth your time Download the documentation, check out the release notes at the end of the documentation, decide whether you want to get that latest release of iMerge or not. The file opens as a zip file, and you're going to want to extract it to somewhere on your computer. My famous tip, I have an erase me directory on my computer, and that's where I store all sorts of stuff like this that I'm going to need once and never need again. And I can delete it anytime I want. Second most important thing you can get out of this webinar is when you go to run it, always right mouse click and say run as administrator. Even if you are an administrator on your computer, this ensures that everything gets installed correctly. One of our bigger issues is people are rarely an administrator when they think they are, and so the product doesn't get fully installed. The product should be user installable the very first time you install it, and or if you haven't upgraded in a long time, we're going to need your SA password or an equivalent SA username and password. And if that makes absolutely no sense to you, your IT folks or your solution provider can get you that information. You only need it the first time. It's going to go ahead and update the background information, the stuff that iMerge needs. Someone just needs to type in that information and you'll be all set. This is the first thing you get, and this is our self-licensing. It says we're going to go ahead and pass over your iMIS licensing information. We want to know your IP address, and we're going to send over some additional error reporting. We'd like to go ahead and self-license your your iMerge. If you feel like not doing that, we've also sent you a killer key that will go and you can paste in. But this is the easiest way to do it. Allow the product to contact our licensing server, and as soon as that's done, you will be all set, ready to go. This is the error reporting. I'm asking you to please turn it on. Like I said, nothing confidential is sent over, and if you turn that on, we can help you very easily. If you get stuck, you saw we had a manual there with a grammatical error and everything. We spend a lot of time and money on these manuals, so please read them. Brooke, who is in support, wrote the manual. She spends hours and hours and hours and days and days and days to make sure that's great. So please take a look at the manual. And if you're still stuck, go ahead and email us at support@csiinc.com. Give us everything you can. I was trying to merge these two IDs. I turned on error reporting. And by the way, here's a screenshot as well. That's going to tell us so much information. Give us as much screenshot as you can. Don't cut anything out. We'll take the whole screen. And we're running about 1 to 2 business days to turn around. And so that's business days in the U.S. So if you were to submit something now, you know, they're going to say that they're going to get to it by sometime in the middle of your Wednesday night or your Thursday night. I forget which two. So we've got tomorrow's going to be Tuesday in the States. They need all day Tuesday and possibly all day Wednesday. That's only when we get really busy. Right now, I think they're running about a 1-day turnaround. So you can expect a turnaround in about a day and a half to 2.5 days if you're submitting it now in the middle of the night for us. Here's some fun things. Did you know that you can install iMerge on as many computers as you want, and you can even point it to your test iMIS? We don't care. You bought iMerge, use it on everyone's machine, use it on just your machine, use it on your test database. It doesn't matter. We do not recommend that you delete records with iMerge, and that's because 9 times out of 10 when we're dealing with a support issue, it's something on your database end. You have a trigger or something is causing iMerge to crash. And when you do that, it's tough on us, so we'd rather you mark it for deletion, go ahead and see which records are going to be deleted, and then purge them en masse. You need to be a level 4 in order to use iMerge, so you don't need to be level 8, level 4. Got a great idea for enhancement? Email support@csiinc.com. Those are reviewed about every month or 2. They make sense if more than one person's asked for it. If it's not going to add tremendous complexity to the product, we tend to add it. As I said, that's how we got from version 1 to version 4.41 or whatever. They were from your ideas, so please submit ideas. We're having webinars like this on every one of our products, and they're rolling. You can go to CSIinc.com/webinars. You can see past ones that we've done and all sorts of things like that. And this is the same URL you would go to find out about other events like this. Finally, our sales URL is CSIinc.com/iMerge if you wanted to kind of see it from, if you wanted to show a coworker from, rather than a, I'm assuming you know what I'm talking about, bent, but a look at all the cool things it can do. You can go to a regular iMerge, and then of course our webinars one will do that. So I'm going to turn it over to questions right now and see if Zach has received any questions.
One was
I
a
just shut off my
comment.
screen.
Jesse was extremely excited about the possibility of the new idea for iMerge. So Jesse, you should definitely email Doug your suggestions on that. We have another question. Someone's licensed for duplicate merge manager with iMIS 20.2.19. Does this include iMerge, et cetera? Is this a different version of the same?
Unfortunately, that is an ASI product, and we are CSI, so iMerge from CSI is a separate purchase.
And those look to be the only questions so far.
That's not bad. Like I said, you can always go ahead and email me at that email address if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you were afraid to ask about it on this webinar, you shouldn't be, but feel free to email me privately and to say I had a question I didn't feel like asking, or I thought about it after we hung up, and we'll get back to you on that. So if you just email me at that email address, I will see it.
And just as a reminder, this is being recorded, so I will put it up on our website, and you guys will be able to see it tomorrow when you get to work. I think other than that, we wish you guys a great Tuesday, and make sure to visit Doug at the NAG Asia Pacific Conference next month.
Yes, we should have that in there. Please register for that. We're trying to set a record there for Asia Pacific. It will be, I should know the date, shouldn't I, Zach? It's going to be the 16th through the 18th of November down in Melbourne. And I'd love to see you down there. I'll be down there, and that's all I have.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great day.